Good evening, and welcome to the next edition of Cooking with Michael. Tonight's episode, exciting as always. We'll be doing an authentic fajita pasta, and I'll show you how we do it in just a couple minutes. But before I do that, I want to take a moment and say thank you for all of you across the country, and even those of you across the world who logged in and watched the live episode. I hope you got something out of it. I also hope that you were able to take a moment and maybe try those Pittsburgh sandwiches to see what you thought. Be able to try different variations of it, whatnot. Hope you really enjoyed it. It was so successful and so exciting for me that next week, next Saturday, 1 week from tonight, at 8:30 p.m., we'll be doing another live episode. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, I'm in Maryland, so it'll be 8:30 Maryland time. But we'll be doing a live broadcast, and this time, I'll tell you exactly what it's about. We're going to be doing Maryland crab cakes. Homemade Maryland crab cakes. Again, if you watched last week's episode, I'm from Pittsburgh. Never had a crab cake until I moved to Maryland about 14 years ago. It has become one of my favorites. Local dish. I do it a little bit differently than a lot of other people. It's got some local seasonings as well as fresh crab. I'm just excited about it. I can't wait to do this live next week. So, that's next week at 8:30. Tonight, we're doing our typical video where we're going to show you what we're doing and show you how we're cooking the date night dinner. One thing I also want to point out, I think you'll notice, probably a little bit better picture this time. I did invest in a camera. I've also been tweaking some software in order to have a little bit better, showing a little better episode. So I hope you really enjoy this one. So again, tonight's episode, not live, but still just as good. We're going to be doing a fajita pasta. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. But of course, before we get started, first things first, Pinot Grigio. That's right. I got my Pinot Grigio. I've already poured it into my glass. So I can start my cooking. I'm going to take my sip. And we're going to get going. So here we go. I'm actually going to turn the camera down just a little bit. I have control over the camera a little bit better than I had before. So we're going to just turn it down so you can see the stove. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the pasta. Pasta, as you know, to boil takes about 12 to 14 minutes. So what we'll do is we'll start the water. We got to heat up the water, of course. We'll start the water, get that going, get it to boil, and then we'll start the chicken. So what I'm going to do is, because I have this ability of the new software and the new camera, I'm going to pause it, and we'll be kind of pick up right where we left off. So we'll do that. I won't even be able to, or I won't even have to say, hey, we're going to take a break and come back. We're just going to pause and go right through. So I'm going to hit pause for the moment, and then we'll continue on when the water starts to boil. Real quick, while I'm waiting for the water to boil, I do want to point out the fact that I do have my cat, which is helping me. He always helps me. He kind of sits there and watches what I'm doing. So always a good time to have the animals around, especially when the wife is upstairs putting our, two-legged animals to bed before she comes down for a date night. So, again, we're going to go ahead and get that water boiling now. It's on, and we're just about ready to boil. So let's take a look at it. Just looking at the water, we're not quite there yet. It's just starting to bubble a little bit. Not quite boiling, so I'm not going to put the pasta in just yet. While I'm taking a minute here while we're doing this, trying to figure out how to advertise when we're the new episodes. So right now I've been texting people and emailing people, letting them know that's up, that the new episode's going up. So those of you who are watching this, if you have a better way, let me know. I would love to hear more about that because I want to get more people to watch. My goal is to get a lot more subscribers, a lot more people enjoying the food and having a great date night. So let me know your thoughts. So feel free to text, email, whatnot to my cooking show and let me know how I can get the word out more. And of course, those of you who are already subscribed, if you know anybody who you think would really enjoy it, please feel free to pass the link on to them and have them subscribe too. the more subscribers, the more different ideas we can do, and the more fun we can have, and the more date nights we can have. So I'm going to take another look at the water, and we'll see how things are going, and see if we can get this party rolling. So, all right, let's take a look at the water and see how it's coming along here. And it looks like we are starting to boil. So I'm going to use Barilla pasta. I use that, well, I'll give you two reasons. First, it's a little bit easier to cook because you don't have to worry about it sticking. But also, Aldi happened to have it, and if you've watched my episodes before, you know I'm a big fan of Aldi, and that's where we do our shopping. So I'm going to use a half a box. And the reason I'm using a half a box is because this is really about a two-person dinner. I'm not really looking forward to looking to serve a bunch of people, and I'm not really looking to have leftovers. It's going to be a one-time date night dinner. Some of our dinners do have leftovers. This one, not so much. So what I'm going to do is I poured the pasta in there. I'm going to stir it just to get it going. Now, I also do, even though I just got done saying Barilla pasta doesn't typically stick together, but I do just because I'm used to it. I take a little bit of the olive oil. I pour just a little bit in there. What it does is it not only keeps it from sticking, but it actually does give a little bit of flavor to the pasta. Many will disagree with me, but I actually can taste the olive oil, a little bit of flavor to it. So we're gonna stir that a little more and let it boil. Again, about 10 to 13 minutes for it to completely be done. While I'm doing this, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, try and keep it from boiling over. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get ready to do the chicken. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera back down. And again, just one last stir of this. And again, I did put the olive oil in here. So one last stir just to make sure everything looks good. And good with that. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the chicken ready. White meat's always the best way to do this, to be honest with you. You can get chicken breasts, you can get them fresh, you can get them frozen, what have you. I actually, again, Aldi, I actually use frozen chicken tenderloins. Tenderloins because they're already cut into strips and it makes it a little bit easier. Again, we're not cooking for a lot of people, just us, so we're going to use just 3 tenderloins. You can see 3 frozen tenderloins. Now, you want to defrost just a little bit in the oven. I actually have already done that I've done that really because to save some time. But I only defrosted it for just a couple of minutes. You don't want it to cook in the microwave. The reason being is if it cooks too much in the microwave, it will be dry when you go to put it in the skillet with the pasta and everything else. So I don't do that. Just enough to be a little mushy to the touch. Okay? It also makes it easier to cut it up. So I had to start that one more time. I'm going to turn the camera back down and I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the chicken tenderloins. Again, chicken tenderloins. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take my cutting knife, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cube it. Best thing to do is just cut it in strips, okay? And then I'm going to take those strips and I'm going to cut them in half. So again, we've got a cube that looks like this, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm going to take a reusable bag. You can use Ziploc bag, you can use what have you, whatever you want. I'm going to take a reusable bag, okay? I'm going to take the chicken and I'm going to put it inside the bag. And I'm going to do this for the other 3. Again, I just used 3 tenderloins. When you get them from Aldi, they're usually pretty big for the tenderloins. So I'm going to use 3, and I'm going to cut this one up, okay? Again, just slice it, and when you're fully sliced, and you want to cut that slice down the middle. And again, until you get that cube look. It's okay to be a little bigger because when you put them in the oven, or I'm sorry, put it in the skillet, it's actually going to get a little smaller. Again, I'm going to go ahead and put them in the bag. Okay? And then I'm going to take the last one. Let me put the rest of this in the bag while I'm talking here. Take the last one. Okay? Last one. And I'm going to put it over here to cut. And if you hear that noise going on, that's my dog. And forgive the cone, but she just had a little procedure done, so she's here, kind of helping me for anything I drop to clean up. So she's here. She's a 14-year-old or 12-year-old border collie mix. Almost 13 years old border collie mix. Great dog. So she is my little buddy that's helped me cook tonight. So she's sitting here on the floor. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there. Now, I'm going to take the knife and the cutting board, put it over there. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. And then after we wash our hands real quick, then we're going to put the other ingredients into the bag. Okay, so come back after washing our hands. Take that bag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, again, the olive oil. Okay? I'm going to take the olive oil and I'm just going to pour some into it. Okay? Maybe about 2 tablespoons or so. That's probably about right for this. You don't want to put too much because you don't want to be too greasy. And you're also going to use some olive oil in the skillet as well. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Fajita Seasoning. This is an authentic Fajita Seasoning as opposed to the store brands. I know that it has a brand name on it, what have you, but it's not your typical store brands, and we won't mention those because we don't want to get sued. But I went to an authentic Hispanic market and got this. So this is what people typically are using when they're making their homemade fajitas and things like that. The reason why this is so good is because it's got a lot less sodium, so it's not real salty. Some of the store brands, less authentic ones, are in those little packets, have a lot of salt in them and don't have the flavor. This really brings out the flavor of fajita seasoning, which is just fantastic. And if you do it right, it's amazing. So I'm going to take the lid off. And I'm going to grab myself a spoon, just a big old spoon here, and I'm going to put basically 2 spoonfuls of the seasoning in. That's it. Now, if you're using the store-bought packets, the non-authentic ones, it's going to say add water. I don't add water because you don't have to. Water is really used for those to help offset that salty taste. So while that's sitting there for a second, I'm going to go ahead and stir one more time the pasta. It's coming along just fine, which is good. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to close this up. You can see it basically just like a Ziploc bag. But again, this is washable and reusable. I'm going to seal it up and then I'm going to squish it around. Okay? I'm going to make sure everything in here is covered. Okay? The more covered, the better. Now, you're going to have some left over, and that's okay because you're going to need it when you go to cook the pasta in the skillet. And I know you're saying, well, you're cooking the pasta, you're boiling the pasta. Yes, you are, but you're going to put it in the skillet after the chicken is almost done. So we're just basically, at this point, just mixing it all around, getting it all mixed up, getting it nice and seasoned. Okay? So keep doing that until all the pieces are covered and all the pieces have fajita seasoning on it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to let it kind of sit for a little bit. Marinate. Just for a few minutes. We're going to put it down just for a few minutes. Then what we're going to do, I'm going to turn on the burner for the skillet here. And again, I'm going to go back to my olive oil. And you'll see pretty much everything I do, I use olive oil. Again, nice flavor, nice cooking. Doesn't really have a burn taste to it if you cook it too hot, things like that. So we're going to take this. We're going to put just enough to coat the bottom and a little bit in the center of the pan. Okay, it just kind of looks like that. And then I'm going to let it heat. If you've watched my episodes before, you'll know I always tell you, don't take a paper towel and wipe around the bottom like our moms did when we were growing up. You want to let the heat actually get that oil and get it nice and thin. That way it coats more evenly in the bottom, plus, you're not wasting paper towels, but B, you get a nice flavor all the way around because you get a nice heated oil, which is good. So while that's doing that, I'm going to check the pasta, and it is not quite done. I can actually tell just by touching it, it's not quite done yet. So a little bit longer on that. I'm going to take a second here, and I'm going to have a glass of, You know, I do that every episode, actually. Sooner or later, I think I should just down a glass. No, but I'm going to have a sip of my Pinot Grigio. All right, so while that's getting ready to heat up, we're going to take it. We're just going to kind of move it around a little bit, just see, how it's coming along. You could almost smell the oil heating up, and that's a good thing. You want to smell the oil and not a burn. So as long as you're smelling the oil, you're doing fine. So this needs just a little bit longer to heat up until it's that thin consistency that we're looking for that'll coat the bottom of the pan before we put the chicken in there. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the pasta done here and get the pasta into and drain it and let it sit there for it to do what it needs to do, kind of drain out and let it get a little cool. And there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you that in just a second. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drain this pasta now. Okay, we drained the pasta. I'm going to take the pasta out of the, or bring the strainer over. Okay, we just drained it, so you can see it's right in there. I'm going to let it sit inside here. Now, I'm going to let it cool, actually, for a reason. Some people will actually put butter in there to keep from sticking. It's not going to stick. A little bit of oil you put in there is going to keep it from sticking. But I let it cool because I don't want to overcook it when I do put it back into the skillet. Sounds weird, but you got to trust me on this one. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and open up the container of pasta. I'm sorry, the container of chicken. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in the skillet. And then I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to put it in the sink to be reused. Take an ordinary spatula. And we're going to, let me turn this down a little bit. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cook this until it browns. Now the oil on the bottom is for twofold. One is for a little bit of taste, but it's also to keep the chicken from burning and sticking to the bottom of the pan. Again, I've said it a million times. You don't want to overpower anything we're doing with different flavors. The flavors must complement each other. And believe it or not, burning actually is a flavor. Not a good flavor, but it's a flavor. So you want to keep it from burning. And by doing that, you're going to just keep kind of stirring it around until the chicken turns white. Now, some will say use a thermometer or whatnot. With cube chicken, you really can't do that. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm literally just stirring the chicken over and over and over again until it will in fact burn. So just keep stirring. And as we continue to stir, you can see it gets starts to cook a little more and more. The big thing is you don't want to, again, burn it, but you also want to make sure that you still have enough seasoning in here to get on the pasta, because you want that pasta to pick up the seasoning as well. So we're going to keep stirring, and you just kind of keep doing this non-stop until it is done. It doesn't take very long, to be honest with you. It takes about 5, maybe 7 minutes tops till it's completely done. The reason it takes that long is we did put it in when it was frozen, or at least still partially frozen. People will cook it all the way in the microwave, and then it makes it a little bit easier in the pan. The problem with that is it does in fact get dry when you do that. You want to make sure it is not cooked or even almost cooked from the microwave in here, because all you're going to get is dry chicken. Here you want yourself to have a nice moist piece of chicken. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to get out a knife, and I'm just going to check one of the pieces inside here. And we're not quite there yet, although it's coming along a lot quicker than I anticipated, but we are going to just keep stirring and just keep stirring. Okay, let it sit for a minute and then go back to stirring. Again, you don't want it to burn. That's the whole point of it. So just keep moving it around, flipping it over. You don't have a lot of chicken. As you can see, it's not a lot of chicken in there. So it's pretty easy to make sure that it's not going to burn. as long as you keep stirring it. So we're going to keep stirring it. And as we're stirring it, if it does seem to be cooking too hot, you can, of course, turn it down some to keep it going. The good thing about these flat top stoves is it will, of course, keep the heat, and these skillets keep the heat as well. So you can turn it down and still get enough heat to cook it all the way through. So we're going to take another cut. So still just a little bit pink, but a lot better than it was. We're going to keep stirring that and keep going. We're going to just, as I say, keep going here. I'm going to check chicken again, take another big piece. And it is almost white inside. So what I'm going to do, that means it's almost done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my penne pasta and I'm going to go ahead and put it right in top of the chicken. And I'm going to stir this all up. Now, you can add different things to it if you want to add peppers or tomatoes or onions, whatnot. I don't do that. And I don't do that, those of you who know me will say, you don't like vegetables. Not exactly true, but I don't do it because I think that this, the fajita seasoning, the chicken and the pasta, do just fine on their own. So you don't have to add the extra stuff. If you do want to add it, you would actually cook the vegetables first before you do the chicken. And then put the chicken in there with the vegetables and get them going that way. But I don't do that. I just do the pasta and the chicken. It seems to do exactly what I'm looking for. Quick, nice meal. Very filling, by the way, because as we all know, pasta is very filling and chicken is just fantastic. So as we stir it up, you can see, I'm going to show this to the camera here, you can see the pasta is getting a nice mix of the fajita seasoning. And the chicken is still cooking. So we're getting close to being done, though. So while I'm going to let that sit for a minute, I did turn it down so you can hear, actually, it's not sizzling as much, which is good because it's not going to burn. I'm going to take another sip of my wine. Go back to stirring. And again, this part of it should only take just a couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. You can check a piece of chicken here to see if it's done. And you know it's done when all the chicken is cooked. And the best way to tell that is, again, find some of your biggest, thickest chunks of chicken that you cut up and cut them open. And if they are done, then you know the smaller pieces are done. The pasta already being cooked is already cooked, so that's done. All you're really doing now is just getting the flavor of the fajita and the chicken and everything mixed all together. So we'll just keep doing this, and I'm going to take another cut of this. Good thing is you don't really run out of the whole, the number of times you cut it, you don't really run out of these big pieces of chicken. So almost ready. Probably another minute or two, and then we will put it in a bowl, and we will be done. I served this in a bowl. It is a pasta dish, so I don't know why. It's just something that I've always done. So I serve it in a bowl, and it always is good for. Oops, one jumped out. Let's put that sucker back in there. It's good to just make it easy for eating and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to take one more piece of chicken, but I bet we're going to be done. And we are. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the oven. I'm going to reach in. Hi, there I am. I'm going to reach in, and I'm going to grab a bowl. Just a regular bowl. And turn off the oven. I'm going to move this over to the center. I'm going to take my ladle. I'm going to scoop some out. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are done with our date night dinner for tonight. As you can see, the whole thing took less than a half an hour. I know you're going to say, well, you paused some through there. I did, but still took less than a half an hour. That's what it looks like. Okay. Pasta, fajita chicken seasoning. Great fajita pasta dish. Tasty, fun, quick, easy, and perfect for a date night and ready to go to sit down and talk to your loved one, your spouse, your date night partner, whoever you're having your date night with. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the date night. I hope you enjoy the food. And again, remember, next week, next Saturday, 8:30 p.m. live, another live episode, crab cakes, Maryland crab cakes. I'm excited. I can't wait to see you all. And I'll continue to update you all as things go on. Please, 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 if you know anybody who is looking forward to cooking and wants some ideas on cooking and would like this episode or like the channel, have them subscribe. I would love to see more subscribers. The more subscribers, the more we do, the more fun we have, the more date nights we have. So, again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great, great date night. Thank you so much.